I have been blessed since 2016 to have stewardship for this short time in my life, stewardship over this theater. It brings me such a joy to see the joy that others have when they attend things here in this beautiful theater, that this community coming together has saved.
I've heard the stories from Spencer Stokes, just how challenging it was for the community to get behind renovating the theater. And because of folks like Spencer and Joan Hellstrom and others, I know that the county made a big commitment to make sure that we could have this asset as a part that would stay in Ogden and be strong for it to serve future generations. And I'm so grateful for those folks who made the sacrifices at the time to see this beautiful facility stay in place and to be the great resource that it is.
I actually don't have a ton of fond memories about this project because it was, from the county commission standpoint, a pretty awful run because we were sued. It went all the way to the Supreme Court in the state of Utah. So I have a lot of PTSD with the Egyptian Theater, but I knew there was no more iconic building in Ogden, Utah.
We have a huge debt for those commissioners 29 and 30 years ago, Spencer Stokes and Joan Hellstrom, who basically said they're not going to get reelected after the vote failed, and they went ahead and bonded for it anyway to get this whole thing renovated. And then there was a group of individuals on the very last minute of the 12th hour that just came in and were able to save the theater.
I believe when they were getting ready to do the restoration, they were raising money and that sort of thing, it came out that was one of only two, and Van Summerall could correct me on this, but one of only two atmospheric theaters left in the country. And when it was facing the wrecking ball, it just seemed like such a tragedy to be able to destroy an edifice like this that is just so unique and so classic and really over the top compared to the other Egyptian theaters that I've seen.
At some point, it must have been 92 or 93, a county commissioner named Lowell Peterson came to see me and said, we figured out a way to finance a conference center, and if we also threw the Egyptian theater into that project, we could finance that at the same time, and then you guys could raise money privately and throw it into the public financing, and maybe we could do something.
This project comes out of being really an exemplary project of a community coming together with a shared purpose, that purpose being to create a downtown community gathering center that reflected our roots as a community as well as our future as a community. And that shared purpose, though, could have only happened because we brought together partners. I have never seen this community work harder together.
Well, you've kind of got to hand it to everybody. You can talk about one individual, but it is such a great community for doing this kind of thing. It's remarkable, and it's the kind of community investment and pride that I think gives people their biggest reason for wanting to live in Ogden, is that they know great things happen here.
I'm Van Summerall, and I'm a crazy person who loves the movies and the theaters. The Egyptian in my days, in my favorite days down there was the early 50s. You're going to laugh at this because it sounds ridiculous, but you know, even if I didn't know word by word that came to my head, the idea was there that somehow I would work to save that theater.
It would have been much easier just to say we're not going to do it, but we did because we felt like it was the right thing to do, and because of that, I think the community is better off. I mean, you have multi-generations who have experiences here. If I have to hear one more time that, you know, the first kiss that somebody ever experienced was on the back row of the Egyptian theater. And I'm sure those people have brought their children and grandchildren back here to see the Mighty Wurlitzer or a play or and they're able to relive that connection. This would have just been one more forgotten building.
We have a fantastic Wurlitzer theater pipe organ that's installed in the facility, and I take care of it. It's my baby. When this theater was built in 1924, it had an organ, as did a lot of theaters that were built at the time. It was the voice of the theater. Back then, movies were silent. They hadn't learned to talk yet, and there was never really a silent movie. They were always accompanied by something, whether it be a piano or an orchestra, or some of the bigger, nicer theaters had organs. And the theory behind an organ was that one person could be paid or employed to play the organ and make it sound like the whole orchestra, and you could just pay one person instead of the whole orchestra.
I think history should stay alive, so to speak. We need to remember our history, and there's so much history in this theater. When you look at the transition that the theater made through the decades and how society affected the theater itself and its success and failures. With the renewal of the theater, I believe it brought in a diverse selection of entertainment for our very diverse community. And I think that is a very important thing, because art is so reflective of life, and we need this diversity in the culture. And I think the Egyptian Theater is the perfect place to display it.
Where would we be if we didn't have Peery's Egyptian Theater? Because this is a central location for all performing. If you look at Ogden, where do people go to perform? Where do people go to listen to concerts? Where do they go to go to movies, right?
I think that the venue, this theater, has offered a stage and a place that is inspiring culturally, but also inviting to such a diverse group, from local talent to national talent. I have never been anywhere where I've seen the variety of things I've seen here.
It fosters a sense of belonging. Any type of community activities that bring the people that live here together for celebrations or performances or things like that, it fosters a sense of community. It did when it was first built in the 20s. It was a gathering place.
The arts, I feel, a variety of the arts, touches the soul and touches you in a way through music and dance and performance that can't be touched in any other way. You're not going to get that, on a phone or an iPad or anything. You've got to disconnect and come and feel what live performances and the arts do. And they move your soul. And I want the community and all the generations to experience that.
Peery's Egyptian Theater is one of the heartfelt pieces of our history here in Ogden. It gives us a charm that other communities would kill to have, because you can't go back and recreate the history that we've preserved and have a space like this. And I just think Ogden has a really bright and vibrant future because of the assets like this that have been preserved. And it's so great that we get to celebrate 100 years of the Peery's Egyptian Theater to highlight what that means for our community.
This is our home base. Ever since fall of 2016, this has been our home. Peery's is the center of what takes place in this city as far as the arts.
Tell me one of your fondest memories of the theater.
I was offered a job. My eventual boss to be saw me, and he was in the lobby, and we talked, and as we parted, he said, well, on your way out, stop by the office here, and I may have a job you'd be interested in. He offered me the job of assistant manager. I just couldn't sleep. I was so excited.
I was trying to think how old I was when I first came here. It was probably in 64, 65. And I remember we dressed up, been waiting outside, and it was just, it built up, the excitement of coming to the ticket booth up front. And then to go in and have it slope and sit down, the lights that go down. And this always makes me cry when I talk about it. But you could look up and the stars came out. in that beautiful blue ceiling. And if you've never seen it, or if you don't remember it, it's one of those kind of moments that you just don't forget.
I came here in the 60s and 70s and watched movies, and the reason I came here and watched movies is because my dad brought me. It brought him back great memories when he was a little boy. He would come in the late 30s and early 40s. For 15 cents, he could get a hamburger and come and watch the picture shows back then. And he did that every Saturday. You come here and it's a good feel. It's good, wholesome, friendly, family-friendly, wonderful experience every time you come.
This building has been here a long time, that the community thought it was worth saving then, and your continued support of this building makes it last for generations.
Without the Egyptian, all of the other arts projects and cultural items that we do in the community just wouldn't be hosted at this magnificent theater.
Come and feel the energy of the theater. When I walk through the doors, because I have a family connection, I want to feel my grandfather's presence, this grandfather that I never met. I always kind of stop and look around and think, he was here.
We're building upon our past. And a lot of times your past is your future. And it's fun to come in here and get just a glimpse of what life was like in the quote unquote olden days. And I think people have a connection to their past. And it's just fun to come in here. We present a lot of things like it would have been presented back in the day, with our curtains and the decor and the whole ambiance of the theater, I think just takes people away from the troubles of the world today.
So some of my fondest memories I feel for the theater is watching this theater grow and expand and seeing the changes and the improvements of the theater while we're keeping it historic, and that's so important as we're on the landmark registry. But to have the dump keys come and provide state-of-the-art lighting, it changed what we could do in the theater. It was significant. Then we had, the Utah legislation, with the Arts and Museum, gave us funding for the seats. And we worked with them and were able to put all the seats in. Thank you for showing interest in this theater. Thank you for coming together and helping us celebrate this 100-year achievement. And thank you to all the generations that are going to come and take the baton, and they're going to have stewardship over this theater, and they're going to continue with programming, and it'll just continue to get better and better. That is my hope. That's my dream. Ogden is a beautiful community. We do great things together. We're so close and tight-knit in Ogden. There's nothing that we can't achieve. So onward and upward to the next 100 years of this beautiful historic theater.